Today, I'm going to show you how to turn these into the best home theater experience for free. I'm going to show you guys how to build your own custom virtual surround sound inside of HeSuVi. And if you don't know what that is, I'll link down below a video tutorial on how to set all this up. This really is the best virtual surround sound experience I have had to date. And I've been using HeSuVi for at least 7 years. And before we jump into the finals to showcase the difference between the native audio implementation and the 7.1 virtual surround sound, because our ears and the way we perceive sound is unique to each and every one of us, I had to choose the generic preset of this, well, not personalized HRTF preset as a way of demonstrating just how good it can be compared to native implementations. And I figured this would give you the best representation without it sounding slightly off if I were to use my own personalized profile.
Go! Attackers just armed Grand Vault G. Gateway 1, out! That's the second Grand...
So I've included links for everything we're going to need to download. And the first application, which is basically going to run all the computation for the profile that we build, is going to be MATLAB Runtime. And you can just choose the newest version. And once it's done downloading, make sure to install it so we have it ready to go when we open up our other application. And we'll head over to GitHub. And here we'll have the individualized HRTF synthesis. HRTF, by the way, stands for Head Related Transfer Function. If you want to learn more about the technology, I recommend looking at his thesis. You will have to translate it, and it's super technical, but also interesting if you are able to understand some of that. So let's download the latest release from 2023. I recommend only downloading the patched version. I'm not exactly sure what's all different. I'm sure if you read around, you can figure out the differences. But I had no issues with the patched version. We need to make sure we create a headphone correction for the headphones we'll be using. So we're going to go over to Squiglink here, and we'll just type in our headphones. Mine will be the R70, and I like this one here. Now this part's a little bit subjective, but a great starting point would be Harman 2018. And if you find that's too much bass, Harman 2013 drops that down a little bit. But I feel like overall, this is going to give you a more balanced and pleasant listening experience. Now what we want to do here, you see this little squiggly line? This is pretty much the frequency response of my headphones. And all we really need to do to make it sound like the reference curve is go on over to Equalizer here, click Choose Model, and go ahead and select your headphone. It's as easy as a click of a button. We click Auto EQ right here, and it's going to generate a profile adjustment to match that curve. The last thing we need to do is export it. Now that you created your headphone correction to the reference standards, you can enable it. I prefer to enable it in Equalizer APO versus HeSuVi, but whichever way works. It's as easy as pressing the plus button here going down to Control and clicking Include. Then you'll just click the little folder and then you'll direct it to your curve, which I have right here. Make sure you have it enabled after you selected it, and you can tell it's applying the frequency adjustments and moving on. Now once you installed MATLAB and the EAC application, just go ahead and boot it up. Now what you're going to want to do is take a photo of either your left or right ear, or even both, depending on how different your ears are. Most people are probably going to be fine with just doing one ear. And so you're going to want to take a picture similar to this here, but you also want to include something that you know the diameter of. Something like a coin, like a quarter, for example. That's what I used, and it worked out perfectly. And just so you know, a quarter is approximately 2.5 centimeters. Now after you uploaded your photo, obviously this is not a real photo, but I figured it was the best for demonstration purposes. You're going to want to create a first line directly across the center of the quarter as close as you can get. Now this already says 2.5 centimeters, which is perfect. That's what we want. Now after you made your first line, you're going to go ahead and double click the measurement here, and it's going to pop up a little box that looks something like this. I already had it open, and it might show 10 millimeters, and what we want to do is change this to centimeters because that's what's being used on the application itself. And we're going to go ahead and put our known diameter of 2.5 centimeters for the quarter, and bam, we're all good. Now every measurement that we make should be pretty accurate, and we can go ahead and start measuring by just click and drag. So what you want to be measuring is basically what they have listed here on the graph. D1, D2, 3, 5, 7, 8, and also include 2 different head measurements. These are a lot easier to capture in person if you want to do that instead of a photo. Now for the last measurement, D8, I think this is one of the most important ones here. And the best way I think to do this is grab a Q-tip and just kind of press it in at that angle, and then with your fingernail kind of emboss on the stick part how far that measures, and then you can go ahead and measure it after the fact. And I would think that's better than trying to stick a ruler in your ear. So once you made all your measurements, you can just go ahead and plop them in. And if you have a right ear, go ahead and repeat the same for that. If you don't have a right ear, I'm sorry, this binaural simulation might not work too well. And one more thing you want to pay attention to is your sample rate. You should check your audio control panel to see what your sample rate is set to and match that. I would recommend 48 for most situations. Also, make sure that your units selected are centimeters. If you have this selected wrong, for example, if you had millimeters, even though that's not an option, your numbers would look like this. Instead of 1.98, you're now at 19.8. And that is going to create some very bad results. It's easy to do. Pay attention to your units. Make sure you're using the same units. And one last step before we generate the profile is to head over to the next tab, HeSuVi options. And here you're going to see pretty much the standard speaker positioning in most professional studios and theaters. However, I personally have been experimenting with 160 and have been having really good results. And what this does is basically puts the rear speakers more directly behind you. And while we can't resolve all too great behind us, I think this is why a lot of people have issues hearing footsteps. We're not helping the issue by putting these two speakers so close together. And that creates kind of almost a gap. Anthony Gramani, who's pretty much a big name in the home theater world, actually recommends putting them at a higher degree as a way to create that better immersion. And even while gaming, I find having them further back gives you a better presentation of enemies trying to sneak up behind you. So once you got that set up, you can head back over to the main option. So once you have everything set up, choose where you want to save it, and then click Start. And it'll take a few seconds, a minute or so, and it'll generate a personalized profile just for you. And once that's done, now we just have to move the file over into HeSuVi, and I'll show you where that is now. Over into Equalizer APO. So head over to wherever you have that installed. And you should also have HeSuVi installed under Config here. There it is. We're going to double click that. And we're going to go down to HRIR, double click that. And here you're going to paste in your custom profile. I already have a couple different ones with different speaker configurations. And I also copied over the default version, which you guys heard earlier. And I'll be sure to link to that as well. And once you do that, you can just open up HeSuVi now. There we are. And once you have that open, you can already see some of the custom ones I've dropped in here. But we're going to scroll down to EAC. And here's all my different presets. You can just go ahead and select the one that you want. And one more step is to make sure you have it on virtualization. And go ahead and press Get Selection. And that'll run a quick script auto-adjusting the attenuation so you don't get any clipping. All right, lastly, we just want to make sure HeSuVi is enabled along with our headphone correction inside Equalizer APO. Lastly, we just need to head over into the audio settings in game. And within here, head down to output mode. Now, most Unreal Engine games have similar options, but you just want to make sure you have system default selected. This should default to the 7.1 surround sound mix that you selected when you set up HeSuVi. If you had it to stereo headphones, this would down mix it in game, and you want to avoid that. In other games, it might look differently. You just want to make sure you have the surround sound option enabled. I hope it wasn't too cumbersome. I know it could be a lot of steps, especially if you did the other tutorial before this video. But regardless, I absolutely think it's worth it. I wouldn't have put together the video if I didn't. And it was actually a lot of work. This is actually the first video I've ever had to edit on my own. So if you guys liked this tutorial and you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you want to see any other sort of tutorial, just let me know and I might be able to make it happen. So thanks again. Till next time, peace.